And welcome everybody to the 2024 CMS HCC Changes Training. And we are moving along. I think this is our final chart review. Now, we did 3 chart reviews, okay, but we could probably do 1,000 of them. So this is the final one, and it's just there may be more put in the program. We do weekly chart review on Thursdays, so if you need access to that, you can always send me an email or whatever. But just for the changes, we just scheduled 3 weeks of chart review. And today's is kind of interesting. But and then we'll move on to, I think we have a guest speaker next week, and I think this is scheduled into December, so we're almost done. But let's move on. Okay. You should have the desk reference, and if you don't have access to it, again, let us know. Don't forget to use the discussion tab for comments, questions, input, anything. And Congress is definitely very, 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 very busy doing other things. So I don't expect to see any movement on the No Up Code Act anytime too soon. Don't forget we're in a blended model. Okay, so you until the end of the blended model, you will continue to capture V24 codes. Okay, and all of them. So any of the couple thousand codes that are being removed, you'll still capture until the end of the blended period. Now, the important part is you should be capturing any new codes, several hundred of them. Okay, you should be doing that now. And as always, I will add the asterisk that you should be, not listening to me as the final word. You should be checking with your organization's policies and procedures. So I don't get between employer and employee. That's a good place to get hurt. So I don't. I'm never here to supersede what your employer's instructions are, but as far as industry, as far as regulatory guidelines go, you should be capturing them. And so if you have any questions, just make sure you check with your employer. Okay. So I want to talk about Parkinson's disease today. Okay, because so here are the mappings, okay, or the related section from the mappings, and you'll see G20, Parkinson's disease. In V24, that was HCC 78. In V28, it will be HCC 199. Okay, it will remain a RX HCC, both VO5 and VO8 161. Okay, so Parkinson's disease. But here is an interesting scenario for you to consider. Okay. And this is what you need to consider, that there are many moving parts in this business. Okay. And so you may have several sources of guidance and instruction that you may need. So there is not a single source of guidance or instruction. The single source would be CMS, but there may be different places in CMS that may be out of sync. Okay. And so what I want to point out today is Parkinson's was G20. And on the next screen, I'll show you. Okay. So in last year's ICD-10 manual, if you looked up Parkinsonism, it would have taken you to G20. Okay. G20 as a 3-digit code is no longer. That is an incomplete code. It's been revised, and you can see that down here on the bottom in the 2024 ICD-10 So now it would be the same description would be G20.C. Okay, and we'll look at that on the next screen. But so my point here is that you should be aware of these changes, and that's why each year and I'll just speak with ICD-10 because, because CPT doesn't really play a role in risk adjustment, but it's the same for CPT. If anybody is on CPT codes, they need to, be aware of the updates each year. But we need to be aware of the updates because, here, the ICD-10 manual has these changes. I'll be posting a document with today's program with a PDF I did of the ICD-10 changes for the year. But you need to be aware of the changes because, one in guidance source may not have caught up to the changes yet, while another guidance source, may have, in this case, you see, there is no G, and this is the 2024 mappings, okay? But the mappings were created before ICD-10 CM changes for the year were finalized. So we won't see a change on this until the next release of the mappings, which will be 6 months, 6 months or more. Okay, so you need to be aware of changes, and they may not always be congruent or in synchronicity. Okay, and here's where as a professional, you bring value to your employer besides your day-to-day job responsibilities. You can be the eyes and the ears for your organization for any gaps. You know what I mean? So you might be sitting there, and so here's a simple thing to keep in mind. If you come across Parkinsonism, and you type in G20 and your system takes it, you should be alerting your upline management that it shouldn't be just accepting G20. That is no longer a code. It requires a 4th digit or even 5th digit. Okay. So I just wanted to highlight this because this is, and I'm going to be, I don't have, I'm not AI where I can process a boatload of information at once and come up with an answer. But if this exists with Parkinsonism, I'm going to be going through the ICD-10 changes. Again, I think there was several hundred codes that were either, added, changed, so I'm going to be going through those, and if there's other circumstances similar to this, I'll be putting them in the course materials. Okay, but so specifically be aware of this scenario with Parkinsonism, and then being aware of this issue with Parkinsonism, be aware you may come across other codes that were revised or whatever and may not be in sync with the mappings. And again, from a personal, work product accuracy, etc. Obviously you want to be aware and do the right, code it right. But then if you notice that maybe your company processes have not caught up to changes, then you get to be the shining star and say, hey, look, I found this, and you get to help them update their processes. So I think anybody can feel good about bringing something to their organization's attention that helps their organization do the job right and better, right? So here, here was G20 in the 2023 ICD-10 CM. Okay, it was just G20, Parkinson's disease. Okay, and so now, G20 would be a incomplete code. Okay, we need G20A, G20A1, G20A2, or G20B, G20B, G20.B1, G20.B2, or G20C. Okay, so last year, G20 would have been an appropriate code. This year, not an appropriate code. And again, just remember, the mappings the mappings right now. There's another point to consider here. How codes get calculated into a risk score is through claims data, which the provider submits to the Medicare Advantage plan. The Medicare Advantage plan forwards that to CMS. CMS calculates the risk score. So we have to rely on the fact that so if G20C is submitted to CMS and they haven't updated their system, okay, it will kick out and the health plan will be notified, okay? But I have to imagine that their risk risk score calculating system may not match the mappings, may be more updated than the mappings, because the mappings only come out at certain times, okay? And so just if you do it right to the letter of current information, then you're golden. And again, if you share the information with your organization, then you're doing them a service as a good employee, if that makes sense, as a diligent employee. So I hope that makes sense. And so let me pull up before we get to the chart. Let's look at this is the document that I will post in the course materials. Okay, and this is I put this together with all the ICD-10 changes for the year. Okay, and so this is not the complete index of ICD-10 CM. It's only the those in the index that had changes. Okay, now you may see, because I don't believe, I don't think it has, right, it doesn't have every A condition, every B condition. So where you see no change, it's the category, it's the way they did it. It's just to give the main section, subsection, and then sub entry that changed. So maybe the main like hematoma, there was no change to hematoma. See also confusion, but they added K66.1 peritoneal hematoma. So while this has no change here, there was a change in a sub entry. Okay, but this is not a complete list of all the entire ICD-10 index. It would be much longer, right? So then here are and instant tables of drugs and chemicals. They just added gadolinium, external causes of injuries index. Okay, and so what you'll want to do is maybe be familiar with or if something tips you off that something's not right. And here we go from revise G20 to G20 point and needing a fourth digit or fifth digit. And so some of these, go through these, look at them from a standpoint of what was the other one that was just there? Opioid dependence. Okay, that would likely be a risk adjusting condition. So if you go through this document and get familiar with the ones that may risk adjust and just get kind of, if you've looked at it once, you may recall when you get to one to come and look. You know what I mean? So so that's the changes, and I hadn't put it in. I have the chart in the course materials for today. I have the handout. When I post the video, I will post that changes document as well. So so let's look at a medical office note. We have visit on November 7th. Shaky, shaky, get it? Parkinsonism. Okay, never mind. Date of birth, July 12th, 1955, 68 years old male. Follow-up for hypertension, hyperlipidemia, osteoarthritis, and Parkinson's disease. Okay. And so we got the vitals, we got patient reports, stable blood pressure readings at home, and compliance with prescribed medications. No significant changes in symptoms related to hyperlipidemia, osteoarthritis, or Parkinson's disease noted. Denies any new concerns or symptoms. So we have the objective. Here's the exam. Okay, nothing to take there. But if we were coding this for risk adjustment, okay, we got 2 RX HCCs with meat. Okay, so we have hypertension and it's well controlled with current medication, and hyperlipidemia lipid levels are within normal range. Okay, osteoarthritis does not risk adjust, and then we have Parkinson's disease stable with mild tremors. Okay, then we have the meat. Continue antihypertensive, continue lipid lowering medication. Symptomatic management of osteoarthritis with the acetaminophen, and Parkinson's medication regimen to remain unchanged. So we have meat for all 3 of those conditions, the 2 RX HCCs and the HCC. And we have, patient instructions, etc. So if you were coding this record, okay, hopefully you are, observing. If you have an old, because a lot of people do use, maybe they didn't buy a new ICD-10 book. They're using last year's ICD-10 book. I did that for a long time, okay? And I just made a mental note to myself, make sure that you don't leave anything in a gap that, changed, but this is where it becomes important, because we are no longer going to be coding Parkinson's as G20. It's going to be G20.AX, G20.BX, or G20.C. Okay, so we need, where it was G20, we're going to need a 4th and or 5th digit, right? So this, this is, a real world look at how going through a record is going to be impacted by this scenario. So I hope that makes sense. And of course, we have pear tree. Pear tree. Okay, enough humor. So that is our chart for the day, just illustrating this this scenario that is something that will be noteworthy and should be contemplated and considered in your risk adjustment coding. So with that, any questions? Somebody knows what to do if there's no questions, so that Doug doesn't get paranoid.
I don't have any questions, Doug. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. So I hope that's helpful. Every little tidbit helps, as you're going through charts. Helps with your productivity, helps with your accuracy, helps with your overall professional knowledge, helps with your diligence, everything. So that is the word to the wise for today. Still to come, we'll be reviewing some key risk adjustment terms and concepts. Guest speaker coming up. We'll do a wrap up and Q&A. And there's going to be some optional sessions on rate, book, and bidding. Rate, book, and bidding. If you slow down, Doug, you'll be able to pronounce it better. Some star ratings, risk adjustment factors, other things. So that is today's session. And just I'm gonna go back one slide here. Any last minute questions? Well, I thank all of you for being here today. And many of you have been here for, almost every week for 6 months. And there's light at the end of the tunnel. And as always, please don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything. We are here for you. And that is today's session. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.